All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Welcome to the February 11th, 2026 regular meeting of the Portsmouth Conservation Commission. The first item we have on the agenda is our approval of our January minutes. Does anyone have any edits? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I was not there, so I won't.
Yeah, so I wasn't there either, so if we only have 3 people voting.
Then let's push it till next month.
All right, so does someone want to make a motion to postpone the minutes?
I'll make a motion to postpone the minutes to the March 2026 meeting for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Okay, great. Next on the agenda, we have the wetland conditional use permit application for 50 Cloud Drive. And if we could hear at the same time, if you have anything different for your State Wetland Bureau application, we'd like to hear it all at the same time.
Absolutely. Oh, goodness. My name is Devin Herrick. I am a certified wetland scientist with Weston Sampson Engineers. We do have a brief presentation to orient folks who may be in the audience with us and the commission as to the project. So we'll see if we can get that up and going.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not able to share my screen right now. I don't know. I just texted our producer. Hopefully, Kevin back there can come out and help me log into Zoom.
If not, don't worry, we can just run through it without.
Okay, sorry about that.
Maybe in the meantime, I'll introduce, we have 2 folks in the audience with us for the project, and they'll be coming up with any questions that you may have specific to them. Antone from Weston Sampson Engineering, he's on our landscape architecture team, and Ken, Director of Building, Grounds, and Maintenance for the Portsmouth School Department.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, apologies for that. Pull up the PowerPoint and start presenting.
Hey, there we go.
Okay.
Perfect. And we can just skip right ahead to the next slide, just to give folks maybe a little orientation for where this proposed project is located, 50 Clow Drive. And if we skip to the next, we'll be able to see just a slightly more zoomed in version of what current conditions look like. You'll see 2 red boxes. We're going to be referring to 2 playground areas throughout this presentation. The Peep Playground, which is the smaller playground located on the west side of the school building, as well as the Little Harbor School Playground, which is the larger playground located on the, located on the west side. The Peep is on the east side. Next slide, please. So for this proposed project, the purpose is, right now the existing playground equipment is outdated. It just does not fully meet the needs that are supported by the community and the school. So we're looking to make updates to these playground structures in both playgrounds. Proposed playgrounds are going to be designed to be accessible and what we call barrier-free. They also incorporate some nature-based elements for grades K through 5. The Peep Playground is generally younger kids, but the Little Harbor School is for a wider age range. Next slide, please. For existing conditions, again, we have that Peep Playground located on the east side of the existing school. Right now, the existing playground just has one playground structure with a lot of loose play equipment, and there's a wood chip play surface with a small adjacent lawn with sparse vegetation. It is enclosed by a chain link fence and has an existing stone retaining wall that separates the playground from the parking lot. That stone retaining wall is going to remain in place as part of this proposed project. Next slide, please. And for the Little Harbor School Playground, this is a much larger play structure, monkey bars, climbing equipment, a gaga pit, swing sets, basketball court. There's also a small ephemeral stream that is present that is due to runoff coming from the basketball court. There's no connection with the hydrology in the ground. It is solely from stormwater runoff. And that dissipates into that grassy play area before it reaches the salt marsh located just to the south of the playground. Next slide, please. So as part of the proposed scope, starting with the Peep Playground, We're looking to have 2 play structures, ages 2 through 5, with a group seesaw. There's also an accessible wooden play bridge, a large sand play area, and a much larger grassy open space. Next slide, please. Some of the site enhancements that are proposed are new plantings. You may remember from our site walk out there, right now there really isn't much in the way of plantings at the Peep Playground. So there will be 5 new trees and 34 shrubs and native herb plantings. Some boulder accents, and then increasing that play space by about 1,000 square feet. We had one minor change between the previous application that was submitted and this current application. When we look at the conceptual designs drawings, it'll be a little easier for you to see, but basically the fence has been squared off, whereas it was previously a curve. This just allows for the play space to be expanded a little bit more and meet the needs of the Peep folks who had expressed that they would like to see just a little bit more space. There will be a concrete area for bag drop, and that will also allow for any trucks to come in to do any sand replenishment that may be needed. And asphalt walking paths that are going to be slightly narrower to allow for a minimization in impervious area. Next slide, if you would please. For the Little Harbor School playground, we're looking at 2 new swing sets and a large play structure with climbing element. There's going to be an engineered wood fiber base. We are exploring a permeable rubber alternative as well. The Gaga pit will be retained, so that existing pit will be relocated, and the concrete foundation of the Gaga pit will have wood fiber fill. Next slide, please. Some of the site enhancements that we're looking at. There will be a rain garden for stormwater management. Right now, that overland flow just kind of trickles into that ephemeral stream. So instead, there's going to be a rain garden put in to allow for additional plantings. It'll allow for the children to interact a little bit more with that area and the nature, and it will provide a small amount of treatment before it enters the ephemeral stream. There will be no impacts to the ephemeral stream as part of that project. It will be located right at the very end of where that existing stream is located. The asphalt play area with the basketball court is going to be moved further from the wetland and reduce the overall paved surface. And there will be concrete curb and mow strip around the wood fiber areas, and the existing trees will all be retained. Next slide, please. There will be 10 new trees planted and 46 new native and herb plantings. In addition to those playground plantings, there's also going to be rain garden plantings with 34 native herb plantings. There's also some small mounds proposed to provide some separation between the school and the playground area. That will be planted with a Northeast annual and perennial wildflower mix. So this is what the existing Peep playground looks like. We can see some of the buffer zones that are associated as part of the jurisdictional areas for the project. And if we go to the next slide, we can see what the proposed structure will look like. So as you may recall from the previous submission, as I was saying, the fence was curved and now it's just been squared off just to maximize that grass space based on some feedback we were hearing from the Peep folks. But for the most part, everything is staying well within the same footprint. Again, that retaining wall on the right-hand side that separates from the parking lot will maintain. The new tree plantings, you can see they're kind of visualized in the green circles with the new play structures. If you go to the next slide, we can look a bit at what the Little Harbor School looks like, Little Harbor Playground.
I actually have a quick question about the previous.
Yeah, let's do it.
The dotted line that goes through the play area.
Absolutely.
What is that? Is that?
I believe that would be the 100-foot buffer.
That's the 100-foot. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so this is the existing conditions for your Little Harbor School playground. We have the existing asphalt, and if you go to the next slide, you'll be able to see kind of how that asphalt gets pulled back a little further away from the wetland area. We get some nice plantings coming in to provide something like a buffer, and we have that rain garden that's kind of located at that 90-degree bend where the break in the trees is. Thank you so much. Yep, and that area right there that the cursor is hovering over is one of those natural mounds that will be planted with the native seed mix. The next slide just zooms in a little bit more clearly on the area. Perfect. So you can see some of the buffer zones and just kind of the reorientation of the asphalt and all of those play structures and that Gaga pit down on the bottom that is being retained as part of the project. If we go to the next slide, we can take a look at the delineation that was performed as part of the project. So this school is located immediately adjacent to the Piscataqua River. And as part of that, there is also some salt marsh that is located off on the fringes. The project does not propose any direct impacts to the river or the salt marsh, but there are going to be impacts within the 100-foot buffer zone. This area is a prime wetland, so it would be a 100-foot tidal buffer zone and 100-foot buffer to prime wetland, in addition to your local setbacks. Next slide, please. Perfect. Okay. So those New Hampshire DES jurisdictional areas that I mentioned, we've got the 100-foot prime wetland buffer and the previously developed tidal buffer zone. Those two areas overlap. Our project classification, since the amount of impact area exceeds 10,000 square feet, this project requires submission as a major impact project, despite no direct impacts to the wetlands, because we are touching especially the 100-foot prime buffer. That would be a priority resource area, so it's taken very seriously by the state. Next slide, please. Just a brief summary of those impact areas. You'll see they're exactly the same because the two areas do overlap. So we are looking at just under 18,000 square feet of permanent impact. Permanent impact would be something that's resulting in a grade change or a materials change, as opposed to a temporary impact, which would be something that's maintaining the same grade and then going to maintain that same material upon completion. So an area that is currently asphalt and will be asphalt upon completion, or currently grass will be grass upon completion. So our temporary impacts are 10,274 square feet. Next slide, please. Then with regards to the impacts for the City of Portsmouth jurisdictional areas, we absolutely will be doing impact close to your 25-foot vegetated buffer strip, but there is no removal of vegetation that is proposed. Similarly, the 50-foot buffer limited cut area, again, no trees or vegetation being removed as part of this project, just additions going in, and the 100-foot buffer and the 150-foot area as well. We do have, you may recall, there is one small wetland that is located just north of the existing parking lot for the school, but it's less than 10,000 square feet, so we do not have buffer zones placed off of that area. Next slide, if you please. Thank you so much. A little summary of the City of Portsmouth jurisdictional impact numbers. Again, it's 0 to 100, so the numbers end up looking quite similar, but we just wanted to provide a little breakdown for each of those areas for if you may be interested. Overall, the project is going to see a reduction in impervious area by 1,950 square feet within the 100-foot buffer. Next slide, if you please. Excellent. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd love to hear any questions that you folks may have. We can certainly bring up our other project team members if there's a question that perhaps I'm not quite as knowledgeable about. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone want to start? I have a question.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about the base material? I saw like wood fill or wood fibrous fill, and then also some other options.
Absolutely. Want to give it a whirl?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Anton Almeida. I'm a project manager in the Landscape Architecture Division of Weston & Sampson. So we're using engineered wood fiber, so essentially just compacted mulch. You know, that's an alternative to like poured in place. It's a little bit cheaper. And then we're using bonded rubber where we can, which it's similar to poured in place, but it's actually bigger granulars, and they kind of interlock together. And it's a really good option for this situation because it holds in place, and it also provides the safety standards that we're looking for, and also helps with accessibility as well. So that bonded rubber will keep intact, and that's what you're seeing in the little area around the large structure, the accessible swing, and then the whole entire port in place. Bonded rubber area at the Peak Playground.
Okay, so is the wood, I'm sorry, what is it called, wood fill, is that what you?
It's engineered wood fiber.
Okay, engineered wood fiber, is that ADA compliant?
So it is, as long as it's maintained, and
Okay.
it will be maintained, yes.
Okay. But you prefer the rubber stuff over
Yes,
it?
it's just more expensive,
Gotcha, okay,
yes.
okay, thank you.
And a maintenance plan for both surfaces has been included as one of the appendices.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question to follow up on that. So the perviousness of the wood fiber, even though it's the rubber interlocking is still pervious?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, we actually got data on that, and it's the rainfall capacity is 1,300 inches per hour, so it moves very quickly, and it's an average of 442 gallons per minute per square yard of surface area.
And does it come in different colors?
It does. So at the Little Harbor School, we're actually matching the engineered wood fiber, so that's going to be all brown. But then at the Peak Playground, we're going to have brown and then blue, and we're doing a little color palette for that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of, it's nice because you guys are putting a lot of trees in, but
Yes.
too at the same time, like the lighter the color, the less likely it's going to be a problem in the summer, in the warmer weather. I know they're not
Yes.
in the summer, but so it's probably not a big issue, but it's great.
For it getting warm, like hot? Or?
Yeah, like getting
okay.
hot. I don't think.
So I'm not actually familiar with that product. Is it like a mat?
The bonded rubber,
Yeah.
it's essentially, yeah, it's sort of like a mat.
Okay.
It's like, yes.
So does it come in like pre-cut sizes? or is
So it's like poured in place on site. So you take this rubber and it all interlocks together, and we'll have the contractor compact it to 4 inches, and yeah,
it- Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions?
I had a question about the interaction with the perennial, well, I think it's more with the rain garden you're creating. What does that look like as far as what can they, what can they do there?
Sure.
Or what would they do there?
So really, we have a little bridge area, which is, the kids can look down and play. We're assuming that they're going to go into the rain garden itself and kind of play around there, but, we're using a lot of native plants there, and then at the end, we have a check dam. So then, obviously, that'll hold the water and then have it slowly go out into the stream there. So we're hoping it's a learning experience. The teachers seem like they're on board with it. Hopefully, with the maintenance plan, it'll be maintained for years to come, and kids can learn from it.
So they're not actually physically going in and manipulating the area. The kids aren't going to do that, the students.
No. I'm sure they'll go in there and
Yeah,
play around, but once it's installed, they'll probably have free reign on that area.
Yeah.
Is the maintenance plan like looking at what the kids have done or in the rain garden that needs to kind of be
Yeah, we're definitely
paired or?
we're definitely incorporating language that
Okay.
accounts for that. Yes.
Because I could see like some plants being trampled
Yes,
and like,
yes.
needing replacement, and
Definitely.
I don't know if it would be cool to have some signage there, to kind of educational signage, or if that's already been thought of.
Yeah, that was something we've thought of. During VE, that was one thing that came out, but that is something we could add alternate. It's not that pricey, and it could go a long way, especially for the learning aspect of that.
It might also, I don't know, maybe save the rain garden a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't-
definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's gonna
Yeah.
go in if nobody
Yeah.
else is. On the maintenance plan, so it seemed like it was maybe just a template. Some of it was a template from other recommendations or whatever. But the general cleaning of it seemed to be pretty harsh, and I don't know, it wasn't like, they were recommending in some cases to not use like harsh chemicals and not to use bleach and things like that, but it's still got like Formula 409 and a couple other things in there that there are less hazardous alternatives to that. I don't know how much you've explored that or what would work and still serve the purpose of whatever, you're trying to worry about, infections or things like that. I don't know if you've researched that or maybe somebody else has, but.
Well, we can definitely look at that closer and make sure that that's, I guess, the safer for everyone. We could definitely look into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Just to comment on that, we practice green sealed certified products at schools. So when it comes in a maintenance plan, we'll look at that green sealed. And most times we use something on a playground, we revert it back up to the health department, just depending on like you said, if there's something we're looking to remove that happened. So we'll make sure that we look at all the options, but we practice green sealed certified products.
Okay, yeah, because it's outdoors and
Yep.
there's going to be the runoff coming off and stuff like that. That would be good to maybe note somewhere in there that you guys will do that.
Can we get your name on record?
yeah.
Just so we
Ken
know,
Litchie, Director of Building Grounds, Portsmouth Schools.
so we know your voice.
And while everybody else is thinking, I had another question about the city inspecting the rain garden twice a year. At the city, are you guys aware of that?
I saw that in there. I don't know, that sounds like it would fall into the school department. But maybe Ken can talk to that.
Well, I guess we'll reach out to guidance for you, but we do weekly maintenance checks on the playgrounds already. So we can add part of those languages of how we have to look in-house, and then we can reach out to guidance with the tree and greenery or with the planning department as well, just to kind of make sure that when the kids do remove something or not, we make sure we retransplant what it belongs back in where it belongs.
Yeah, that would be great. Because I think of the high school rain garden that was put in a long time ago, and I know that they come in and they just, for maintenance, it's just sort of, cut everything down.
All
and-
overgrown, yes.
Yeah, it's all overgrown, and it's all overgrown with invasives, so it would be great to have, beyond just standard maintenance, sort of considering that.
Yep.
That would be great. Thank you.
Could you point us to which drawing shows sort of the extent of the rubber versus the wood fiber?
Sure.
Here's the plan set. Let's see if we can get to the right sheet, Anton.
Do you have the rendering? That might be.
Do you want a
Oh,
detail sheet?
is it L301, the materials plan? Is that the one?
Yeah, the rendering might be easier if you have that readily available.
I don't think we do.
Okay.
Right, here's the materials plan.
Would it help if I went up to the board?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't touch the
Okay.
screen.
Bring a microphone with you
Also that.
so that you're captured. Yeah, and don't touch the screen,
Okay.
please.
Is it on? There you go. Okay, perfect. So you can see the different colors here. So the lighter color is the bonded rubber, and this is all, connects to the accessible swing, and then the large play structure here. The rest is engineered wood fiber, and also in the Gaga pit area.
Okay.
And then if we go to PEEP, it's all bonded rubber. There's no engineered wood fiber at
Okay.
that playground.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I'm happy to see in the buffer that it's primarily the wood fiber stuff. I just don't know. I don't feel like I don't know enough about the rubber material to want that much of that in the buffer. In fact, I mean, I personally would probably rather it just not be in the buffer if it performs the same as wood fiber. I don't know how others feel about that, but.
Anton, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of the need for some of the bonded rubber is that it's a safety component in falling from equipment, or I think Brandon had mentioned something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the engineered wood fiber is for too, but obviously that requires less maintenance. It'll last a long time, and it adds that extra accessibility, you know, to that swing. You don't have to touch it. Whereas engineered wood fiber, there's a lot of maintenance. And we're showing concrete headers around any of the areas where there's engineered wood fiber or bonded rubber. So that'll keep it intact as well. Because right now, I don't think there's any edging, and the engineered wood fiber or the mulch goes everywhere.
Yeah.
This will hold it in.
Okay.
Can I just ask, do you know what the maintenance difference is between wood chips or wood shavings and the engineered wood fiber?
Certification.
Yeah.
So we get, our playground's mulch is certified, so it meets 2 ADA standards for compaction, and it also ensures that it's clean as well.
So you have to clean it like pretty often?
No, actually, we buy it clean from a company that
Okay.
ships it to us, as we do all the city playgrounds with certified playground mulch. So it's that wood fiber, which comes from a third party certified, that it's clean, it's processed, it's not from your local wood chipper that who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then they give us some guidance on how to compact it down to a 2% grade. Because we also have to create a roughly 10 to 12 inch depth mulch as well for fall protection. And then the comment back to the bonded rubber is we can look at bonded rubber only to the apparatus only, but into the bigger structures, we're looking to give it full ADA accessibility, not only to one part of it, but allow them to have full accessibility to that structure. That's why we're looking at the bonded rubber under the play structure.
Okay.
And what did they have at the Dondero School? Do you know?
Dondero School right now just has a stone pathway that goes to each structure, and that's it. So if you look at Dondero's layout over Google, you'll see just a stone base that just goes to a swing, a stone base that just goes to the mulch structure, and then we have to maintain some type of hard, compact, 2% grade to get them wheelchair accessibility to that. Now with the bonded rubber, it's going to revert that, so now the students can just go right to that structure and then go to the accessible swing, and then they'll have just limited access to parts of, like the Gaga pit will be just like a compacted area, once you need a little bit more assistance here and there.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready for a motion? So we'll have to do two separate motions, one for the CUP and one for the state wetland permit. So we'll start with the CUP. Someone wants to make a motion for that.
I'll do it. I'll make a motion to approve the wetland CUP for, is it 30? 50 Cloud Drive.
Yeah, I can second it. I was
Yeah.
wondering if we're going to add the signage, the
Yeah.
educational signage, or?
I think that would be a good stipulation, is the educational signage at the rain garden. And then also in the staff recommendation, the wetland boundary markers at the 25-foot vegetated buffer edge.
Yeah, I think we had included in the application, we'd love a little guidance on where those should go, because some of the 25-foot buffer obviously runs right through the middle of the play area for the students, but we do know that that's a mandatory component for your approval, so we'd love a little guidance on where those should
Okay.
go.
Yep, we can do that.
Yep.
Did you also want to put something on the record about the cleaning of it?
Yeah, just what it had mentioned about the cleaning on the, and using products or whatever that are green, the ones that you guys have.
Sure.
Greenfield certification, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's okay.
Kate, we can send you the wording on what those products are called, if that would make it easier for you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do we just want a note added to the plan saying that all playground maintenance shall be performed with Greenfield certification,
Or in the maintenance plan?
or on the maintenance?
Yeah.
Yeah, or in the maintenance plan.
Yep.
And then also in the maintenance plan, like, just that the rain gardens are part of that kind of weekly check of the
Right,
grounds.
yeah. And I just had to, like, to follow up on Alice on that, trying to keep as much of the rubber out of the buffer as possible. I don't know if there's, I mean, that's not really a condition, it's a request, but, just makes me nervous too. But I don't know how.
Yeah, it sort of seems like it could be removed from under that sort of geometric piece of equipment and still have the full accessibility to all the equipment that you describe. You know what I'm saying? It looks like it's a net or something.
Oh, like a climbing.
It'd probably
The
take a
dark
pretty
thing.
large area of it. I don't know.
Does the city have any thoughts on how you'd feel about?
Can we bring it back to the administration?
So we can bring it back for
Yeah.
further discussion with the administration. They're the ones that ultimately approve the layouts for the playgrounds, so we can't give a definitive because we don't give final approval on them.
That would be great.
Yeah, I think it's not something that requires like coming back here or
Right.
anything, it's just kind of trying to reduce.
So as a stipulation saying, please consider reducing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That area.
Using the rubber in the 100-foot buffer
Yeah, in that area Alice mentioned.
as much as possible.
The staff memo also includes this request about getting approval from the city's trees and public greenery committee for any
Oh, yeah.
tree planting. Do we want to?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so any, I guess, installation of new trees will have to be run by Trees and Greenery Committee to make sure, you know, they're following all the city planting guidelines. And I also had one other staff suggestion that you kind of touched on, that you researched the manufactured detail for the bonded rubber surface. But I think it would be great if the planning board in the next application round had that to look through and read
Sure.
the facts, to have that company name available, because we were all, I think, really curious about the permeability and exactly how that worked. So
Sure.
those numbers are helpful.
Of course.
You want to add that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just please provide a manufactured detail on the bonded rubber safety surfaces that demonstrates permeability.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any other stipulations or conditions? Do you want to go over those real
Yeah,
quick,
let
or
me-
you feel like you got them?
Sure. Okay, so we talked about installing educational signage at the rain garden, the wetland boundary marker stipulation that was in the staff memo, and I don't know if we want to try to assign spots here, but I think the staff memo said every 50 feet along the 25, and so the 25 does cut through some funky areas, so maybe we can
Yeah.
just,
I'm fine if they want to work with you and Peter as to placement of those,
okay,
if everyone else is okay with that,
exactly.
Yeah. for
Okay.
the weird areas.
Yeah, perfect, okay.
Yeah.
The third condition is, in the maintenance plan, we need to note, greenfield certification for all maintenance on the playgrounds, and also that rain garden maintenance will be added to the regular playground checks that already occur on site. Then please consider reducing rubber in the 100-foot buffer and in the area that Alice mentioned, which is under that kind of climbing structure, and wherever possible. And then our fifth is go to trees and greenery for tree removal or tree install, not tree removal. And our last one is manufacturer details on the permeability of the bonded rubber safety surface.
That's what I have.
Perfect. Okay.
Any further discussion? You ready for a vote?
I just had one more comment about trees. The plantings are not so much in the buffer, but it's just something that I've observed from other new installations in the city. If you can choose trees with the largest possible caliper, it's just going to ensure that they
Sure.
survive. So whatever, I know it's, it's a budget thing, but, I just think like as large as the trees you can get,
Of course.
let's try and do that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, especially with kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and at Dondero, we installed quite a few pretty small caliper trees, and most of them survived, but I don't know if you have kind of a protocol for going back and making sure they have survived, and I know Ken probably knows this better, but some of them didn't make it. So I don't know, like, what the replacement kind of strategy is for that, but.
They use a whole system for their street trees for watering, and it's pretty
Yeah.
slick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, ready for a vote? All in favor? Okay. And then, would someone like to make a motion for the state wetland portion?
I can make a motion to move the state wetlands dredge and fill permit for 50 Clove. I knew I would say it wrong. Up to do now.
Great. Do we need to vote on moving it? Or just,
No.
Okay.
I mean, you already noted that you were going to hear
Okay,
them together,
alright.
so just.
so do you want to make a motion then to
Approve.
approve? Okay.
Yes.
All right. In terms of, I guess, we should get a second first.
I'll second.
Okay. In terms of what we added as stipulations for the CUP, I don't know which ones would be helpful for the state. I mean, they all seem very city-specific, I think, but I don't know if I feel if any of them really need to be added to the state wetland permit.
Yeah. I can't either.
Okay.
We were sort of assuming that they're all going to be added anyway. so-
Right.
I mean, consider reducing the rubber in the 100-foot buffer, that probably applies.
Okay.
We can always just, we can always, in the letter of decision to the state, say, the city wetland permit requested these stipulations.
Yeah.
Please consider in your evaluation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just so we don't try to
Yeah,
cherry
cherry
pick
pick which
what would
ones.
apply to
Yeah.
there.
Okay. We're ready for a vote? All in favor? Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Thanks. We are going to move the minimum impact Garfield Road, McKinley Road right-of-way project, just because it's another city project, up now, and then we will hear the last two applications that we have of new business. Would someone like to make a motion to take that one out of order?
I'll make a motion to move Garfield McKinney Road up to,
Now.
I take out of order and do now.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, so dredge and fill minimum impact Garfield Road, McKinley Road right of way.
Good evening, Chair and Commission members. If you're able to pull up the site photos and the impact plan, that would be helpful to talk off of.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, there's the existing conditions plan. Okay.
Site photos.
There they are. Great, thank you. So my name is Nick Messina. I'm a project manager and civil engineer with CMA Engineers, Inc. Here on behalf of Public Works, also represented by Christine Sproviero. I'm presenting on behalf of the Elwyn Park Sidewalk and Pedestrian Improvements Project. The broader project includes a suite of traffic calming measures, intersection improvements, and sidewalk construction throughout the neighborhood. And one of the intersection improvements does propose impacts to jurisdictional wetlands, and that is at the intersection of McKinley Road and Garfield Road. From the site photos, the very corner of this intersection are the jurisdictional wetlands that we are here to talk about, pretty much right at the corner. This is the view from Garfield looking at the corner, and the photo below is from McKinley looking there. It's a very isolated wetland. It's altered by roadway runoff and existing drainage infrastructure, and it is remnants of a broader historical wetland that existed prior to the construction of the broader Elwyn Park neighborhood. So all work associated with the project happens within the public right-of-way. There's no private development or private property impacts associated with it. The entire intersection relocation will occur within the right-of-way. And if we can scroll down to the plans at this point, thank you. The wetlands were delineated by a certified wetland scientist in July of 2024 as part of the site investigation. He noted that the historical alterations of the wetland and the effects of the roadway and the existing drainage infrastructure on its current condition. The project proposes a total of about 920 square feet of impacts, which is significantly below the 3,000 square foot threshold for a standard dredge and fill minor permit application. The project qualifies as a minimum impact public highway project, which is one of the categories for an expedited minimum impact project. And we are here before the Conservation Commission to get review prior to submitting for DES in order to make it eligible for that expedited review. Again, the goal of the project is to improve both vehicular and pedestrian safety throughout the neighborhood. Skewed intersections are just inherently more dangerous for both people walking and reduced sight distance for drivers. So the ultimate goal is to make the intersection more perpendicular, bring Garfield across from Harrison Ave on the opposing roadway, and make it a true perpendicular four-way intersection. The hatched area shows the area of wetlands that are proposed to be impacted, and there are several tree removals noted in that area as well. All of the green space indicated is existing roadway that is being replaced by green and impervious area, and the intersection reconstruction does result in a net decrease in impervious area at the intersection. With that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments you have on the project. In general, it's a relatively small scale public improvements project. Thank you.
Thank you. How many trees are you cutting?
I believe 6 or 7 is the number.
And it's ones like closest to the corner?
Correct, yep. So there are about 6 of them in that hatched area.
Okay. And then go ahead.
I was just gonna say, could you tell us a little bit more about the area that's shaded green and what the, plans for planting or any mitigation for the?
Yeah, so as a base case, we're just calling it out as loam and seed because it is going to be contiguous to existing yard space. So on the southeast corner where the existing parcels are, even though this is in the right-of-way, it's likely going to feel to those property owners that they're just gaining additional yard space. That being said, if the commission wants to see some quantity of plantings, I believe Public Works is reasonably open to that. I don't think we're here saying it has to be lawn space. I think it just made intuitive sense because, you know, that's what they have in their existing front yards, and it is going to connect directly to those front yards.
Yeah. Seems like it would be terrific to do some, like, in-kind replanting of some trees in the vicinity. I mean, maybe it doesn't necessarily need to be that exact spot if those homeowners maybe just want 1 tree or 2 trees, but my guess is in the neighborhood or even around the school, you could find a spot to add back a few trees.
Yeah, I believe Public Works would be open to that. I think the only thing we'd want to make sure of is that we're not planting them in the site distance that we're trying to improve, so making sure they're just set back enough from the pavement. It's probably something we'd talk to the homeowners about too, because again, even though it's in the right of way, it'll be their new front yard and making sure they're comfortable with whatever we're proposing.
Can we just go back to that photo for a second?
Sure.
I'm trying to orient myself here. So is the intersection moving further into the foreground, and essentially most of those trees in the photo are coming down to accommodate that?
That is correct. Yep, it is moving into that corner. And then the far space where you see some striping and painting is becoming green space.
And is this intersection a particular problem that we would need to do something that environmentally drastic to accommodate traffic calming? Have there been a lot of accidents there? Or I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around why we would need to cut all these trees down for this purpose.
Sure. So the impetus for the project has been public feedback in general, requesting to Public Works for traffic calming measures, things to improve and slow down cars in particular. So with a skewed intersection, you know, one of the benefits of teeing it up is that if you're making a left or a right, you have to slow down to make that turn. With a skewed approach like that, if you roll the stop, it is just a straight shot onto McKinley. There's no need to slow down. So this is just one of numerous measures that are proposed throughout the neighborhood to slow down cars, improve sight distances. Ultimately, the master plan has McKinley receiving a sidewalk. So the idea would be having that crosswalk that connects across Garfield. So right along McKinley pictured here is where that sidewalk would be. And so it would go into a crosswalk that crosses Garfield in the ultimate layout.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Alice, like, I drive by that intersection 4 times a day, and I rarely, if ever, have seen a car coming from Garfield.
Right.
So I agree with you. I'm not really sure. Like, I understand traffic calming generally in the neighborhood. I understand that these type of intersections are normally, you know, less desirable for sight lines and things like that. But this one in particular, to me, I mean, maybe you did get feedback specifically about this intersection from neighborhood people, and then by all means, like, I would go with their feedback, but I just don't really see this one being as critical.
Yeah, so granted, it is an extremely low volume road. It's not like there's a major development down it. However, at pickup times, parents do queue along Garfield Road. So just past that house on the right, there's a path that cuts into Dondero, and kids walk across the street. So apparently we've been told parents queue along that walking spot. They pick up the kids when the weather's nice and they can make the walk. And then they tend to fly out of there. That's just the feedback we've been receiving.
Okay.
So it is low volume, and it seems suspicious, at first glance, but that's just what's been reported, that there gets to be a queue there at pickup time.
Yeah, just to Alice's point, like, it seems like a lot of change for, I don't know if there's like other measures that could be done instead of this dramatic environmental change to combat that one particular pinch point of time with the school. I don't know how everyone else feels about that. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know that for bigger, more detailed projects, there's formal studies done on the nature and severity of the issue? Were those done, or is this neighborhood feedback and neighborhood preference?
So the city did do a speed study. I don't have those numbers with me here tonight. I didn't think they would come up, but it's a fair question. So they did do a speed count. People were speeding over the speed limit. I can't quantify to what extent off the top of my head. It was just over the posted speed limit. Yeah.
Is that on McKinley? Was the speed study done?
Christine, do you remember? Eric Eby, the city traffic engineer, conducted it. Do you remember the extent of his traffic study?
Yeah, hi, Christine Sperviero, City of Portsmouth. It's specifically for that intersection. I don't know exactly where they set up the radar. We would need to go back and check that.
Yeah.
But there was a study done previously, a traffic study throughout the city, I believe, in this intersection in particular, was reviewed, and this design is based on that recommendation as well.
Okay.
And just to follow up on that, as far as studies go, is there any other alternatives that you guys explored, like a small bump out or something that might slow people down still? And
Yeah, so the alternative to avoiding all wetland impacts would essentially be, to do nothing, and where you see the pavement markings on the opposite side, you could remove that pavement and make it slightly more perpendicular. It's not ideal, from a traffic safety perspective. What we're proposing is the preference and recommendation, but if that was unacceptable and we had to avoid all impacts to wetlands, that is likely the alternative outcome.
So just trying to understand too the order of kind of this traffic calming set of projects. Is the roadway work first and then the sidewalks are coming behind them, or is there any case where sidewalks are going in sooner, at the same time as this project might go in?
No, not the sidewalks here. So the current schedule is that this summer the traffic calming measures would be constructed along McKinley. There's a traffic oval, other intersection improvements, speed radar signs, stuff like that. So that would happen this summer. And the first area of the neighborhood to receive sidewalk is actually, phase one is Van Buren Ave and that entrance to Dundero. So the sidewalk along McKinley would be future phases.
Okay. I guess I ask because sidewalks in themselves are traffic calming. Just having activity and the curbs might slow things down here. So, honestly, it's hard for me to have in good conscience approve something like this when it seems like there might be other measures that could go a long way to solve the problem. It's just hard to watch all those trees come down as a value judgment. I just have a hard time supporting that.
Understood. And again, we are amenable to planting trees as a mitigation measure.
Right.
We would normally, or frequently, to your point, Alice, we would, on just a residential application that had that much impact, we would expect more analysis, and in particular, I think we would expect that alternatives would have been examined more thoroughly and presented before a decision was rendered. In my opinion, just thinking of other situations and trying to be consistent with both residential and decisions that we make for any given case. This doesn't seem to have met that criteria for analysis and presentation of alternatives, so I don't know that I would be able to support moving this forward without that.
This additionally is a request to expedite, so it's because it's a minimum impact. So I think, Kate, how does this work?
So, yeah, it's tricky every time. So the request to expedite, they're looking for our signature to expedite the review period that NHDES goes through. So we can either make a motion to sign if we think it should be reviewed quicker because we believe in the project or, other reasonings. You can make a motion to not sign and then to send comments to DES. I think those are really the two options that we get with these.
Yeah.
Or just to not sign and send no comments.
I'm kind of leaning towards not signing, kind of sending the comments that everyone's been talking about, mainly that we don't feel like maybe alternatives have been fully explored. I don't know what everyone else is kind of feeling with
And,
that.
I mean, that's consistent
Yeah, like
with the
exactly.
regulations,
Yeah.
right? That those be considered when there's that much impact. It's not just an opinion.
Right.
At this point, there's no mitigation for both the loss of trees or the loss of function, like the sort of stormwater function that area, I guess, was serving as a jurisdictional wetland. And we haven't talked about that part yet.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, I think we need a motion, unless anyone has further questions.
So I can make a motion, but am I making a motion just to say we're not signing
I think so.
the expedite request, and then we're adding some
And to send
provisions?
comments.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it just kind of goes forward, and DES deals with it. We don't see it again. Is that
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you
Okay, so I'll make a motion to not sign the expedited review, and with the following comments. We would like to see exploring further options that minimize impact.
Yeah.
And I guess if nothing else, like figuring out the mitigation for the loss of wetland
Trees.
area and the trees,
and filtration? Yeah, or
Filtration.
whatever the sort of water
Yeah.
management
the function,
that
yeah.
was being provided by that area.
Do we have a second?
Second it.
Any further discussion? Are we ready for a vote? I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have 500 Jones Avenue, wetland conditional use permit. Someone here to speak to that application?
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen of the board? My name is Ilya Vosk. I'm project manager for Allen Trans Exterior Finishes, located at 20 Gravel Pit Road in Nottingham, New Hampshire. I'm an authorized agent for the Portsmouth Elks Lodge, located at 500 Jones Ave, for this project specifically. And so we're seeking approval for a wetland conditional use permit to replace the existing exterior deck, ADA ramp, and breezeway. This project is a like-for-like reconstruction entirely within the current footprint. There is no expansion towards the shoreline, no increase in impervious surface, and no change in use. The existing structure has reached the end of its service life and no longer meets modern safety or accessibility standards. The proposed improvements address structural integrity while maintaining compliance with wetland protection requirements, and the applicant has reviewed staff recommendation and agrees to comply with all conditions. So we took the memorandum that we received and went over everything with the applicant already with Elks Lodge. That includes the installation of wetland boundary markers, implementing of erosion controls prior to construction, and stabilization of any disturbed areas. And we also did update the our plan with the erosion control and everything like that, so I can bring that up if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Thanks. We'll share. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna send that down to. No. you have on this plan, it says limit of erosion controls, but I'm not sure what line or what that's pointing to.
So that area, so as you can see above that is the existing deck and ramp that we're going to be replacing.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of room to really place things there. So that area, you see the existing walkway and the existing access to the road. So that hole is kind of like hardball there. So that's where kind of the erosion control is going to be to there to make sure that nothing goes past that point, because that's kind of where.
Hugged around.
Right. So it doesn't go down towards the shoreline.
Okay.
Yeah. Because everything above that is already walkways and everything like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Also on the staff, sorry, are you done with your presentation? Are you ready for questions?
We're ready for questions. Yeah. There's not much to the project.
Okay. You had said you had run by with the Elks the staff recommendations.
Yes.
One of them though involved plantings.
Mm-hmm.
Was that included in kind of what you talked to them about? Were they amenable to doing some plantings?
Yep. So we discussed that with them, and they are considering leaving an area unmowed or adding some plantings. Kind of either way, whichever works. Right now, it's mainly all grass in that area.
Do they kind of have a specific area that they're looking at, or would be more amenable to adding? Because I think, right in front of that existing walkway, is close. That's the part that's closest to the water would kind of be.
And that's exactly. It would be past
That's
after
the
the
area.
existing walkway and existing. They would be fine with doing some plantings in between where the existing access road is and
Okay.
the deck. So that little spot right there as well.
Okay. And then you said water side of the existing walkway.
Yes. Yeah. We want to make sure nothing goes down that way for erosion.
So plantings would be an option there,
Mhm.
is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a no-mow somewhere too, in addition to that, or just in that area where you have the plantings, the no mowing?
We could do it in addition to. Yeah.
So like several feet back or
Mhm.
10. We try to avoid it in the whole 25-foot buffer, but that's probably
Yeah.
not going to work.
It's a little hard.
A little hard.
Kind of everything's been built up to there already.
Yeah. I think we'd probably want like a little bit more of a formalized planting plan that, once it's kind of really decided upon, that I'd be okay with, Kate and Peter just looking at unless everyone wants to see it.
Planting plan showing specifically areas to
I
be
think-
planted and areas to be left
Yeah,
unmowed?
yeah.
Okay.
Is there any stormwater management for all the, water that's generated by the parking lot there and the building itself?
Yeah. Talk about that one.
I'm Alan Trant, owner of Alan Trant Finished Work. They have riprap that's been added on the downslope to the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not really pervy to that aspect of the Elks Lodge. We're here for the deck build. So
Right.
I can't speak without, I don't want to say making it up, but I do know that they have improved. We've been in talks with them since last April for the project, and they have had improvement there from erosion runoff and things like that. Part of our scope is to bring the gutter downspouts under grade to prevent the sediment from washing downhill. There's a lot of ledge there, so I know they've had a hard time with, I'll say erosion, but a hard time with keeping things in place. With heavy storms, the whole parking lot sheds pretty much down the face of that deck.
Exactly, yeah.
Have any of you been down there recently?
Yeah. Not super recently, but. So the gutters then from the building, putting them below grade, meaning they would just sort of release into Sagamore Creek rather than going over land, is that?
We're just bringing it, at the edge of the building, we'll bring it under grade and in solid pipe underground, and it will daylight. But it won't be carrying all the sediment from, right now it's pretty much everything under the deck, as sand gets carried under every time the downspouts go to the edge of the building, it brings all that out and across. Which directly directly on the shoreline side of that photo is where the riprap's been added. I believe it's 6 to 8 inch minus, well, 6 to 8 inch riprap.
Right.
Are you able to show, on one of your plans, I don't know if you want to pull up a plan, where that pipe or where those gutters will daylight? Because I think that's probably important to have on a plan.
It will be on the corner of the deck, because we're not going to disturb anything beyond that asphalt. Our building envelope is just on the deck.
Okay.
When we do our footings, that's when we plan to put that pipe underground.
So it'll be like an extra, sort of the length of the deck underground and then pop out.
Right, correct.
Yeah, so that, I mean, it'd be great to have plantings around that, or in that general area, because it's still gonna be running over some
Right.
surface before it gets into the creek, even though it's not gonna pick up all the stuff underneath the deck anymore, it's, still gonna probably have some force.
I'm not quite sure there'd be room for that.
Okay.
If you go back up to the slide above, you'll see that it's about 18 inches on the corner of the deck. Maybe
A little further up.
a little further up.
I think one more. One more.
I'll put page numbers
There it
on
is,
my
yeah.
next presentation.
Okay.
Not much.
It's about 2 feet from that corner on the left.
Is that, sorry, I'm having an orientation problem. Is the gutter, the downspout there pointing towards the creek?
Correct.
Yep.
That will be
Okay.
existing, and all of the runoff from the front of the building is what we're going to put underground. You see the building jogs out on the left.
Yeah.
That gutter is 45 feet, I believe, will be in an underground pipe. Right now, it is under the deck, right in front of where I'm standing there. That's where it's above ground.
Okay.
and they just asked me to put it underground.
So is it gonna go under that existing walkway too? Or-
We will not be going past the asphalt, no.
So it's gonna daylight right before the existing walkway?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably better ways to do it, right? I mean, our goal always is to try to, allow that water to, sink in so it can get the filtration benefit, and it isn't just rushing right into the Sagamore Creek. And you could imagine a scenario like along, in parallel to the deck, there could be sort of a rain garden kind of treatment there that provides some rock and some plants that could kind of absorb some of that water.
For the space between the deck and the asphalt,
Like to the left of the image that we're looking at right now, kind of in that grassy area.
that would be uphill.
Yeah, but I mean, it's already in a
A bit.
pipe, and whether you could kind of angle the pipe such that that's where the water released, I don't know. Other people have suggestions, but
I know during their ceremonies, a lot of brides walk in that area. They
yeah,
come
that's a valuable
from lower
spot.
area.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned before, I can't speak for what the elk
Right.
plans to do. But we're here mostly because we're disturbing the soils for footings for the deck. I do believe that they have a plan, the Elks has a plan for improvements. Now, there's been, like, they're due for some improvements there, so, but we don't have that site plan.
Yeah.
We have just the site plan that we had drafted is for the deck area.
So, and would the improvements be done at the same time, or are they gonna be done after? I mean, it sounds like you're saying we're going to put outlet the drainage coming off the roof in this spot, so you would be doing that. And,
Correct. Our scope of work for the request today would be just for the envelope of the deck area, and any future plans they have, I can't speak on that. But I know that they have improvements coming. The age of the building is starting to show, but I cannot speak for the Elks Lodge. It won't be the same time. It would just be, our deck project is the scope.
And the gutters, the gutter outlets, you're saying you're doing something with that as well?
Right. Just the one from the front, correct?
Yeah.
We don't want it, right now, it's under the deck, And it's one of the reasons why the footings are failing is because all that water is getting into the footings every winter and freezing and heaving. With the ledge that's there, they're not really getting like a 4-foot base for a footing. That footing in the picture there is about 10 inches below grade till it hits ledge. The main reason for removing the water from above is just to keep the footings from heaving. As far as my purview, for my work.
I think, I don't know how other commissioners feel. I kind of feel like I need a little bit more of the overall plan, which they don't really have purview to kind of understand the stormwater management on this project. I don't know how other commissioners feel about that.
Yeah, we also kind of need to see in a plan what you're going to do without letting that water from the gutter.
It would just be a 4-inch pipe, daylighted. It's a normal daylighted gutter.
We would need to know where it's going though, underneath, and where it would daylight
Like on a plan.
on a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the installation of the pipe underground is kind of where it triggers an additional insight from us, because that's, soil disturbance that we didn't know about, and understanding how that stormwater is going to get filtered before it hits the creek is something in our jurisdiction that we want to make sure it does slow down and, get filtered before.
I don't believe there'd be any sediment in the pipe from the roof.
It's water though.
Yeah, pollutants from rainwater and from the roof tiles, things like that, things that it picks up on its way down the pipe.
As far as the disturbance to the soil, we'll be putting the footings in the ground. That's when we'll also be laying the pipe. So it's the same disturbance.
Mm-hmm. So you'll be doing like a whole trench along that whole side of the existing deck?
Right, on the inside of the retaining wall.
Okay. The retaining wall is this right here inside underneath the deck? Okay.
Right now, that's holding the deck up, but that is
Wow.
that is on the list of things to be repaired. It's starting to heave, so we're getting it off of that and putting footings in the ground.
Just a question about the footings. The footings are going exactly where they are today? They're just going to be deeper? Or will there be more of them?
We'll be going as deep as we can, but it's mostly ledge there.
But I mean, there won't be more. They're going to be located where you currently have footings.
There will be a foot or 1.5 feet in from that retaining wall, and then 2 feet off the building. We'll be eliminating the center.
Okay. And do you know where ledge is?
I do not.
It seems like this application doesn't say anything about the gutters. I wonder if the whole gutter conversation could just be detached from this, because I think the footings,
Yeah.
it's an easier application if we're not doing anything with stormwater.
And that's all that we reviewed was purely the deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either come back with another plan or don't do that particular work? Is that what you're saying?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense to do it all at the same time. I understand why they want to do that.
Yeah.
But just the fact that we now know that they're doing that, that sort of complicates like things, because we're dumping water in places where we weren't doing that before, and so then we usually like to figure out how to handle that.
I can strike that from my project.
So you wouldn't do any, it would purely be the deck and the footings, nothing
Right.
to do with the gutters and anything like that.
As far as our building application, we're here for the deck.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what your application in front of us showed. Like, we didn't have any information about the gutters or the downspouts or anything until you started talking about it. So, like, our approval is kind of as, you know, what is written.
Right.
Which, right, has nothing to, which doesn't talk anything about it purely talks about the deck and the footings. So I think if you just did that and, you know, struck the other stuff, I think this permit or this application is something that we could vote on now, and you get an answer now, versus if you still want to do the other stuff, I think we'd probably want you to come back with more information and figuring out kind of the overall stormwater management plan that the Elks has in mind that we don't really know about yet. And so we'd probably, I don't want to speak for everyone, but maybe delay or postpone if we were to talk more about the gutter stuff. Whereas I think your application as written, just the deck, just the footings, could probably go through tonight.
Right. And as far as building decks for a living, the gutters on my end, and my understanding is almost while we're here, we'll do it as a favor, quote unquote. Right?
Yeah.
Because we already have the machine there and things like that. But knowing what I know now about rain gardens and retention requests, I will remove that from my building permit, and we don't need to do that.
And I mean, if they still want you to do that while you're out there, I think they need to come in with a separate application kind of exploring that whole stormwater stuff. And if it is able to coordinate with your work at that time, then great. But I think that needs to be a separate application.
Right.
From whether you do it or they have someone else do that portion.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I agree with that. They
Okay.
do have their own site plan that they're working with.
Yeah.
This is just the one that we have for our deck.
Yeah.
That's why it's not on there.
it. Yeah.
If it's not finalized yet and it's not in their budget, this quarter or annually for their budget, then that's something for the Elks to
Yeah. Okay.
bring forward to you guys. It's not
Okay.
not us.
Okay. So do we have any questions, any more questions purely on the deck?
One more question on the deck, I
Yeah.
think. Well, maybe two. You were saying that you were doing this partly because the footings are getting basically disturbed because it gets wet underneath there. Is that right? And then they kind of.
Right. Yeah. Groundwater. If we're not below frost line of 4 feet, it tends to heave in the winter. You know, the freeze thaw. The deck is, I think, as old as I am, so it's due for replacement,
Yeah.
and they're being proactive about it. Like, maybe there's another year or two left, but nobody wants to take that chance at a wedding venue.
Yeah. No, it looks in rough shape. We can agree on that, I think.
So the spacing now between the decking itself, the boards, looks like in the pictures it's nothing really, except maybe a tiny fraction of an inch where expansion and stuff. But the intention is to do it 1/4 to 1/2 inch when you put the new decking on, as spacing in between, because it's gonna.
We will do a 1/4. I recommend that for high heels and things like that. Because
careful.
of the use of the building, I wouldn't recommend anything larger than 1/4.
So I just want to clarify, it's dirt underneath now with maybe some hay or straw or something there? I mean, it's not stone underneath the deck, right?
It is not stone.
And I think the narrative said that there wasn't an intention to put stone, but it's just because now a little bit of water will be coming through, which is great, because that keeps it less impervious on the decking, but as the water goes through, it's going to hit the dirt underneath and then drain off.
If it's not in our application, it's in our contract with the Elks to do 3/4 stone.
Great, okay. 'Cause
Filter
I
fabric.
thought I had read that you guys weren't going to do that, but that sounds great. Perfect, solves the problem. Thanks.
Any other questions? Someone like to make a motion?
Making a motion there's a lot of stuff here, but to recommend approval for 500 Jones Ave, with the stipulations that they include the recommendations from the city, I think. And then among those, I think it was number 2 that was about not mowing. So to include a area on the plan where they're not gonna mow. And then also where they're gonna do plantings and what they're gonna plant.
So change number 2 in the staff memo to providing a formalized planting plan, showing
Yeah.
areas to be planted and areas to be left unmowed, which will be reviewed by staff prior to submission to planning board.
Yeah,
Love it.
Perfect.
No, we're not stipulating how many plants, but
Do we just want to clarify in this that to remove any work regarding gutters from this application? And if the Elks wants to do that work, that will need to be a separate application.
And that gravel will be added underneath the deck, just because that wasn't,
Yeah,
written in our application.
the 3/4 inch crushed stone and the 1/4 inch spacing between deck boards.
yeah.
Add that information to the,
Yeah, maybe to the plan and just, yeah,
or as a note on the plan.
yeah, something like that, just so it's documented in another location.
Yeah, I think it'd be updating their narrative too, so it can be on the plan, but also like, I think it says they're not doing anything under the deck
Okay.
on the narrative, so just maybe,
So updating the narrative to also include the crushed stone.
Okay.
Is there any further conditions? Are we ready? Can someone second?
I can second that.
Any further discussion?
The only thing I would just add is this, like, it's a super unique property, it's used by a lot of people, it's loved by a lot of people, and it's, obviously so close to this really sensitive environment, the waterway there. That I think maybe you could just like pass on the message to the Elks that if at some point they do want to think a little more holistically about what they're going to do with their parking lot, it probably needs to get replaced at some point, planting, stormwater, like, Kate, I don't know if I could volunteer you, but there could be kind of a quick consultation with the city, just reminding that there are folks on staff at the city level that might be available for like a little chat really early in the planning process, just to get them kind of
Great.
thinking along the right lines of like, what do we mean by stormwater
Yeah.
management that's ecologically friendly and,
That's great too for, I'm sure the Elks Lodge probably is already thinking about this, but coming in just for like a conceptual meeting just to talk to us about all the different requirements, because they'll need a site plan requirement, which is a different board. They'll need to come for wetland permitting again for different things depending on what they do. But just let them know they're free to come sit down with us and talk through all the different recommendations we might have for their work.
Okay, I will.
they're not surprised by it,
Great.
3/4 the way through the process or whatever.
Yeah. All right, are we ready for a vote? Okay, all in favor? All right, great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is 0 Borthwick Avenue, wetland conditional use permit. Someone here to speak to that?
I'm the last man standing.
You are. You have no audience
Yeah,
except
I
us.
know, exactly. Damon Burt, Fraggle Rock Environmental. So, yes, this is basically existing stormwater detention area. Liberty Mutual took over this section of the parking lot, and I think the city has been involved in overseeing this project. Recommendations that the culvert has failed on the outlet, so you literally cannot see the culvert inlet or outlet. You kind of know it goes in, and you can see it come out, but physically finding the culvert, it's collapsed or gone or whatever over these years. So that's a 24-inch culvert at the outlet that we're proposing. Some of the other inlet areas also, over the years of maintenance, you'll see the red lines are inlets to the ponds. So even those culverts, where they come into the pond, stone is kind of rolled into those areas, and they need to be just cleaned out and maintained, because I really think that the pond itself hasn't been maintained well over the years. And I'm not sure if they're putting snow in that area or what's exactly going. It has guardrails. So what we see also is we're estimating a couple feet of sediment has kind of built up in that bottom detention area. They call it originally a detention pond. But as it is now, we're reading the elevations, it doesn't even look like it will hold much water. It's just there's like sediment and stuff is built up. So we're proposing to sort of just dredge out, clean with the excavator, get access down to the original intended grade of the detention pond or stormwater area. And in the red zone is where that culvert, that 24-inch culvert, enters into the marsh. And so that marsh area is listed as a prime wetland in Portsmouth. So our feeling, being a certified wetland scientist, we've in the past, the intent usually of that designation is a very poorly drained wetland associated with that area. But we've noted that, and it's an existing detention pond with that outlet structure right along the wetland. So it's basically in the wetland, and the elevation's sort of changed over the year. So finding exactly where the outfall is we don't actually know at this point. We'd really have to get an excavator there to find out where the outfall. You can just see water seeping out of that. But our intention is only to work in where the original design and permitted area was. So we did coordinate with DES, Eben Lewis. We showed him the plan, and he's following RSA that the culvert basically and maintenance of the pond would be allowed without a permit. So we already checked with him, so we do not intend on filing a DES permit for this project, being as existing stormwater detention area. But we are in the city's buffer zone, so we've highlighted that in red. So we have 700 square feet of buffer impact, and then we have impact for the outlet area, and we'll do erosion controls. Also maintaining along the banks, cutting some of the vegetation. It's pretty steep. A lot of it's sort of riprap. It's not a real great area, but general maintenance is getting rid of, trees or anything that's grown up. It's not intended to grow in that zone. But the major effort is that culvert. So allow the water to get out and not build up in that pond itself for the stormwater. So that's our main focus. I'll keep it short here at the end, but welcome to questions and obviously Liberty Mutual wants to do what to maintain it right and for the city, basically, per their requests.
Thank you. Do you have the original, or have you seen like the original plans for this detention pond? Like what it was originally constructed to be?
Yeah,
the depths and stuff?
We have the, let's see. I'm looking back. We have an Allen Major, the existing watershed plan. Let's see. So I believe what is shown is, so we did all the drainage that goes to it. It really was supposed to all go into that area. So this is basically the original, as close as we could get. There is another version that's almost hand-drawn. So this is like a little bit updated from the original, but it's, for all intents and purposes, this shows what was supposed to be installed. And
In terms of like elevations, like knowing how much you need to clean out and stuff like that, are you going back to kind of the original, what you
Well,
have, or?
yes, they have the elevations of the culvert, and our intention is to put them back right at that elevation, and that's what we proposed. And I believe we have it notated on the plan, the culvert elevations, but yes, they'll be 100% back to the original. And to that, we'll, in the field, find the culvert and set it at that elevation. So, and I guess, you know, there is another question. Was it installed correctly originally? So we'll have to figure that out as we excavate it to confirm the elevation. We're fairly confident, but we haven't seen the culvert itself. We see where the water comes out. So yeah, I'm saying yes and no, right? So
Do you know when this was built originally?
I believe,
And has there been any maintenance since then?
I don't think there's been maintenance. That's a great question of when it was originally. I believe the early 90s, but don't quote me 100% on that. I could find that out. I don't have that in front of me right now. And it has been reviewed again by Allen Major Associates on their recommendations for replacement. There was discussion about putting a new culvert sort of over the top, but it just didn't seem really appropriate for us. We thought if it's seeping through that, then why not just replace it? So our recommendation in working with Liberty Mutual is just replace what the original intent of it is. And I think that was the city's recommendation also. The city's been involved for, I think, over a year on this also. They're just aware of the, because it was brought to when Liberty Mutual purchased this section of parking lot, it was brought to their attention that they need to resolve it. So that's how we got involved. Yeah. So basically, I guess the short answer of we'll look at where the culvert is when they're actually excavating it and confirm it's what was intended. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then dig out accordingly to make it flow.
Yes. Yep. So it's just kind of, until you actually get at it, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
And then just cleaning the, certainly culvert number 2 where it comes in is sort of all covered up. So we'll have to look at, you know, how to stabilize. A lot of it's riprap, pretty steep. So we'll have to work with a contractor and get some recommendations. We haven't put it out to bid on, you know, what they want to do to stabilize some of those slopes and how they'll access the pond. That's still sort of up for discussion. Because it's fairly steep. It's probably like 15 feet down from the parking lot. It's really pretty narrow, and so they'll have to gain access into the pond. Our intention is to do it during certainly a dry period, so we don't have to dewater or any of that. And we'll be out to monitor it, make sure the water quality is held to in the wetlands, and we're not having any discharges and that sort. So.
Yeah. Any other questions from the commissioners? I'm sure there's a few. While people are thinking, did you get a chance to look at the staff recommendations for your project?
I'm not sure that I saw that.
Okay, because there's quite a few.
Oh, there are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I
which
sort
we
of
can
forgot
kind of
about
go
that.
through.
Yes.
Unless do you have an immediate question?
No,
You
it's good
wanna
to go through
this
this
first. Okay. The first is installing, wetland boundary markers, which is a
Okay.
pretty standard thing.
Yep.
Number 2 says applicant shall include a plan for invasive species removal. This should include details of how invasives will be disposed of.
Okay, yep.
Number 3, applicant shall provide a maintenance plan for this area of the parcel that details annual and long-term maintenance of the stormwater system. And we can send these to you too. I mean, they'll be
No,
part of.
these make 100%
Okay.
sense, yeah.
This should include required annual invasive species mitigation work. And the city had said the plan shall be entered into the chain of title for the property in a recorded document. So that's going a little bit above in terms of future.
So putting the maintenance plan in a,
That's what it looks like.
Right, and requiring that annual maintenance to be done. I think that's kind of how we're gonna look to enforce that
Okay.
this stays
Yep.
updated and
Yep.
we don't ignore it for another 30 years.
yeah. So I think, I'll check with Liberty Mutual, obviously, but it's part of their larger parcel, so I'll have to check with them how they
Yep.
want to do that. I don't know the answer to that, but.
Okay, yeah, and part of this stipulation was also coming from Public Works, who was the original request
Yep.
during the
Yeah,
site
yeah.
plan
Yep.
review. So if it helps, all three of us can get on a call with the Liberty Mutual team too, to kind of explain what
Yeah.
we're looking for.
I'm sure they're going to be on board on
Yeah.
maintenance
good.
plan.
What else we have here? Plans must be stamped, signed, and dated by a New Hampshire certified wetland scientist. Which, is that you?
Yes,
Okay.
so I might not have stamped
Yeah,
these.
so I guess they maybe were not
Yes.
stamped, signed, dated, so
Cor-
that needs to
Correct,
happen.
yeah, so that's an easy one.
We have applicant shall include information for existing and proposed snow storage and removal on site, which is kind of something you touched upon, if that also was why it filled in so quickly, potentially, I'm not sure, but,
Possibly, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but yes.
I mean, we want that probably to be as far away from the detention pond as possible.
Yeah,
And-
okay.
And taken off-site if need be, I guess, if it gets too much for the lot, is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty appropriate. We just did ask something similar of across the street, the hospital. But I think even in our Article 10 discussions, we're talking about eventually making a requirement that there's no snow storage in the 0 to 50. And if it
Okay,
is, it has to be trucked off-site or moved to an alternative location.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, really trying to get it out of that 0 to 50 and moving it to a different spot on site if possible.
okay. We can make the notes. I guess we'll focus on this section of the parking lot. I know obviously the parcel goes on to others, and it will probably key into their whole maintenance plan, so we'll try to figure out the best
Yeah.
way to show that
And I think-
specifically to this.
Yeah, I think what we
section.
really care about here is the prime wetland because even though it's got a lot of phragmites in it right now,
It sure does.
Definitely
There's a bumper
suffering.
crop.
I'm sure all that stuff coming off the snow melt isn't helping. So trying to get it away from that edge that lines up with the prime would be really helpful.
Yeah, okay.
What else we have? Applicant shall provide information on plans for removal and disposal of dredged materials. So just learning where that stuff's going, I guess.
Okay.
Applicant shall include a construction note requiring contractor to clean equipment after work is completed to reduce the spread of said invasives.
Makes sense. Yep.
Applicant shall provide a cross-section detailing the elevation and materials within the existing detention pond and a separate cross-section for the proposed dredged detention pond. I guess that one might be a little tricky, just because it's kind of an on-site.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if the surveyor's also already done kind of an existing conditions of these are the elevations. This is where the woody vegetation started growing.
Yeah, we did an analysis. We actually went out and checked that ourselves. So it's a little. Some of the areas are hard to know what's going on in the bottom, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's really muddy, and it's really so. It depends on. I guess maybe what you're asking is what was the original material on the bottom of the pond.
That's, yeah, kind of where we're getting at, and what if you're gonna restore it to the original, like, layering, or, if you're just planning to scoop out and kind of stabilize the top, or.
I think we're looking to take off just the top, but, you know, we could consider other options. I don't.
Yeah, just basically any information on that, like, step by step.
Okay.
Great. And if
Our intention was basically to clean out anything that was obvious material that built up. It's like just sediment that obviously probably wouldn't infiltrate or really help the pond. And there's, kind of seems like it's just built up over the years in there. So we estimated about 2 feet of that sort of material, but we could, we will work on a cross section that kind of depicts what we anticipate. It's hard. We don't.
the final.
Yeah.
I think maybe this stipulation really was also interested in, you know, are you planning to introduce any vegetation, or is it purely just like a scoop it out and leave it as is?
Yeah, I think
Let
it
it
was
reaccumulate.
scoop out because the original design didn't have any plantings or anything.
Okay.
But you know, I think if there's, you know, recommendations to bring it up to change it, we could consider that would be amicable to that. But
I think maybe after everything is done too, getting a survey, so now you have a baseline again for future maintenance, since we can't really quite figure out what it was back in the 90s exactly to return it to that, and it's kind of we'll see as we go.
yeah,
So
we
having
did
a good
we did
baseline
take
at the end.
elevations in the pond,
Yeah.
in the parking lots and all the areas, and basically correlated to figure out there's a couple feet that appear to have built up, and that's, you know, there's cattails and phragmites, you know, all that's every year is accumulating. So we could potentially do the math and figure out what that material is leaving behind, just organics. And I don't know off the top of my head if that's 1 foot per 20 year, you know, and then add stuff. So I think we're thinking that what's been growing there is accumulating that organic, and it's really dark organic material that wouldn't have been originally in the design. So that's what we're looking at, and I think that would typically get under common maintenance. You would take that away.
Yeah.
So,
And maybe it's more important just to have that side profile shot of the elevations that you
Sure.
already got.
yeah, we can do that. Yeah, no problem. Yep.
The last thing on here is applicant shall distinguish between temporary and permanent impact numbers on plans for the jurisdictional wetland and wetland buffer areas. Temporary impact should include areas of soil disturbance, construction pathways, vegetation trimming, vegetation removal, etc.
Okay. We can look at that. I think we just have only kind of maintenance areas in the buffer listed. We didn't have any temporary. We were just going to use, but there could be some areas from the parking lot in that we'll add as
Yeah, I
temporary.
think if you add, you know, the 100-foot buffer line onto here, then anything within 0 to 100 feet of the edge of that prime wetland, that's including dredging and removing any sort of materials or soil disturbance. If it's maintenance dredging like this, it's still considered kind of temporary.
Yeah.
But it is a disturbance, so we want to keep track of the number.
the numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that. I think the 50 ends just shy of the culvert. You see the red? I think 50 feet is in that red zone. But, so we'll do the 100 foot.
So that's, I
think
mean,
it's
that was a fair amount of things, and in light of that, I would like to hear what the commission thinks about moving forward tonight, or postponing until we kind of are able to see some of this, or just the city seeing it is fine. I'd just like to hear everyone's input on that.
Yeah, I would kind of want to consider that too. I did have a question for you.
Sure.
Which kind of may sway it or not, but did you get any photographs of this?
Yeah.
Because we don't have, I don't think we had any, I couldn't download the whole thing, so. I didn't think we had any in our packet?
Yeah, we didn't provide them in the packet.
No, I think there was 7 pages in the packet. We got the zoning map, narrative, checklist, and your
Yeah, we can provide some photos. We have some.
Yeah, because there's no way a site visit will help us anyway. I was thinking, oh, I'll drive by, but. it's not
Yeah,
gonna
certainly
help.
now with the snow and stuff, but yeah, we have a few photos. We can certainly share those or resubmit.
Yeah, so, and because they do have more information, it probably would make sense to postpone if.
And
it's not
wait
gonna
for
be-
some of this information.
Yeah.
What are people's thoughts on that?
I myself would be fine with it moving forward per the staff recommendations with the stipulations, there's 9. It sounds like
Yeah.
those are all agreeable, and knowing that we want this project to move along
Yep.
rather expeditiously, I'd be fine myself if planning department continued to overlook it.
And you not personally reviewing those subsequent
additional
plans?
materials.
Yeah, okay.
I don't feel strongly, I just am saying I myself
Yep.
feel like that would be fine to answer your question.
Before we hear other people's ideas, Kate, is this something that you as the city
Yeah, assuming that,
would want to take over without us giving further input, or?
I think a lot of this stuff is just informational stuff that we had hoped was in the first round of the application that we just want for records, like the side profile, making sure that there's a note on invasive species and making sure that the contractor that's eventually hired is held to certain standards for limiting that. The maintenance plan is kind of the biggest piece of that, but and that's certainly coming from the planning department and the public works department, so we're comfortable holding that up and making sure that
Would that include snow stuff and disposal of dredge materials? Would that all kind of be included in that?
yeah, it could be. That would be great to have an all-encompassing just for this area.
Yeah, I mean, we have no problem adding that,
Yeah.
as this goes along for sure.
And I think the Public Works Department will want to see the maintenance plan too, to
Yeah.
make sure that it aligns with their requests for, routine dredging and routine checking. But I think all of these are okay. Most of them are
Okay.
plan stuff. Photos provided in the next submission maybe. We can look at that. If this is information that everyone would like to see, like the maintenance plan, I understand wanting to wait to see that. But if you're
What
comfortable.
are everyone's thoughts on that?
I'm also okay with leaving it for city review.
If we do, I just have a few more questions, so I'd be all right with that.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, I don't know how much we could add to it
Right, okay.
after looking at it.
I mean, I feel like I'm sort of playing catch up here, because we didn't do a site visit and the packet was so slim. And it sounds like, Kate, you've got some history at the site. And I'm not even entirely sure why Liberty Mutual is excited to do this project? Is it what problem it's solving exactly?
It was really recommended by the city
Yeah, that's what,
on the
that's what I'm
transfer,
wondering.
so
This is
we're
on
we're
you now.
really following up for the city.
Yeah.
And
Let me pull up a map.
I think my feeling is that parking lot wasn't really used a lot
Yeah.
for quite a period of time. So it kind of fell in this weird area because it was part of the other parcel, which was the bank. I think that was, I'm trying to think, the blue colored bank. I can't think of the name of it, but
Yeah.
so it was part of that, but it was far enough away that it wasn't useful for that.
Right.
There is some maintenance there. They do some of their snow removal equipment is there, and we could certainly show that on the plans. But and Liberty Mutual obviously has extensive maintenance on their facility, and we'll get probably more information than we probably need, but that's all part of this whole process. So we'll reach out to them, we'll figure out the snow storage and all that. I mean, that's no problem. All those items are, it's not gonna be a surprise to them at all. They're gonna, yeah. So, and we still have to put it all to bid also to get a contractor to get out there and figure out 100% how to fix this. So there could be other recommendations as we go through the process, getting a contractor out there and looks at this like, you know, maybe there's other problems that we might have to address also.
So you come back to us for that.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. If it gets more extensive than just general maintenance, we'll,
So they need more parking is what's happening here.
I guess it's, to be honest, when I've gone out, there isn't a lot going on there. There's only a few cars, so
I know,
I don't, yeah,
So they're probably gonna like tear that all up and repave it, and better to get this done first so it doesn't maybe turn back into that.
I don't know any
Okay.
answer to that, but that,
All right.
yeah, I'm not aware of any of that, but.
There's a.
But yeah, you can see the parking lot. I mean, it doesn't look like a parking lot. It looks like a wetland, right? You know, with the, so it's, and some of that's related to even the outfalls into the pond aren't great. So
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting
it's
at.
slow, yeah. So it just has not been maintained and sort of almost not abandoned, but like
Pretty close.
not maintained, I guess is the best way to describe it, for several years. So,
And you said the maintenance operations kind of on that other area. Is that
Yeah.
the city's maintenance operation?
no, it's for Liberty Mutual. So
Okay.
you see the, I think the white building,
Yeah.
that's where they have, I believe, salt.
Okay.
So what I'd also have to confirm is the property line on the parcel, if it includes that also, must.
Yeah, I think they just did a lot line revision
Yeah,
on that parking lot.
yeah, exactly. So
So
I think,
it might be different now.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm assuming it includes that because that's, I think where they store equipment and, maintenance, so we could
Yeah.
certainly look into that also.
I think that would be an important piece of their plan is, that maintenance of that area over there too and what's going on over there with regards to environmental stuff.
Yeah, because you can see the pond, like where the hand is, that little corner is still the pond.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but you can see the trees have kind of grown up along the edge. And, you know, they're gonna want to maintain some of the bank just to clear it up.
So that was one of my questions, is how many trees would be,
That I don't know the answer to because there's the railroad still that we have to try to sort out. But I think it will just be ones that have encroached into the actual pond. We will not clear to the railroad or anything because the property line doesn't even go that all the way. It's just trying to clear up the edge. So there may not be many trees that we expect to cut along that. It's just trying to clear it up so it's,
functioning?
yeah, functioning.
So is there a way to ensure that? Because we've been burned.
Yeah, that makes me a little nervous just because we really should be having on the plans exactly what trees are to be removed.
Okay.
What's to be planted in place to mitigate.
Yeah.
And we have trouble with the enforcement side of things, you know, when contractors just give us, for bigger projects, you know, a tree line to remain but it's really hard to go out there and say, oh, this tree line is intact, but it was just a bubble on the plan.
Yeah, we can update that with planning to explicitly show the limit of all work. And we will see if in our work, because see how a lot of the trees are just over it and we could work without cutting the trees. I think there's a couple trees that have grown on the slope itself. But where you're pointing, I don't think we're gonna cut, I don't think we intend on cutting any of those trees over in that area.
Okay.
There's really no reason, right? I mean, other than if it's in the pond, has potential to impact the pond area.
Maybe I'll just take a second just to back it up and explain.
that'd be helpful.
Sorry, Lynn, because I know this was probably out of the blue, but so last month, or previously, we saw the hospital, we requested that they dredge, the city has requested that they dredge, you know, the channel behind the hospital that goes and drains out to the city property back here behind the highway. And so the reason for that project is because the water from the prime wetland, like southeast of the hospital in this parking lot, all that water and the water down from like the wellhead protection area that the city has down here drains up into that prime wetland, goes under Borthwick and then behind the hospital along that channel, and then drains into this area, the city-owned area next to 95.
Okay, yep.
But also the Liberty Mutual ponds also drain across the street into that same swale that goes behind the hospital.
Yeah, yep.
So that swale has been pretty heavily collecting sediment and has been backing up the Liberty Mutual ponds, which has also affected the drainage ability of the prime wetland. So Public Works in the city has really been trying hard for this whole kind of campus to do a lot of maintenance projects to make sure that the flow functions.
Yep.
Because that prime wetland also receives all the drainage from the Panaway Manor neighborhood because it goes under 95.
Gosh.
And so there's like over 150 acres of watershed draining into this prime wetland that's then going behind the hospital. So when Liberty Mutual came maybe last year, because they wanted to do a lot line revision because they bought this parking lot and they were going to repave it, we kind of saw this as an opportunity of, oh, okay, great, we can have them do this maintenance now, because otherwise we can't really require it without having this enforcement ability with a permit.
Yep.
So that's like the big reason.
Overriding, yeah, okay. More of a watershed
that helps, yeah.
view of the whole area, yeah.
It's like
okay.
we're just trying to get it all done now before something bad happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
And then
Makes
this is
sense.
obviously the parking lot that Liberty Mutual cares about, the large one here that they're resurfacing.
So I think they're resurfacing maybe this one, but this is the one that they just got in their new lot line revision.
okay.
So they're going to be resurfacing this one and restriping it, and that triggered them coming to the technical advisory committee to do a lot line revision and for the site plan work, which is where we originally put in a stipulation of you have to come and get this maintenance dredging work done, which also triggers a wetland CUP. So
Yeah.
it's like a series of triggering.
So here's the triggers when I show up. Yeah, good, okay.
So would we see them again, when they resurface that parking lot, or no?
No, because it's the same square footage, so it's a replacement in kind, or they're just
Resurfacing,
resurfacing.
basically, yeah.
Yeah. So we wouldn't see that. So this is really our only opportunity to make sure that the prime is protected.
Starting to feel stronger about postponing. Just because it is our only one opportunity and there's a lot of unknowns. And so to say, okay, well, we're not going to cut these trees, but, I know we need to see it in the plan, but I think it would be, I don't know, better to have opportunity for more dialogue if possible, if needed. This has been, this area and that wetland are just, it's unbelievable the amount of development out there that's happened that technically wouldn't normally happen at this time, and the amount of drainage. So you're talking a lot of pollutants, including a ton of salt going into that.
Yeah.
And maybe we can't do anything more to protect it, but it would be good to know for sure what's going on.
Yeah, obviously maintaining this pond would allow more of the water to stay.
Yeah.
The salt thing, it's so soluble. I don't know what, you know, there's not a lot you can do with the salt, unfortunately. And it sort of feeds into Phragmites and disturbance, you know, so that's a, you know, larger question, how to deal with some of the salt and that sort.
Yeah, and it's,
And you have a insurance company with a parking lot, so, you know,
exactly.
don't beat around the bush and say, there might be some safety concerns, you know.
But I
But
think,
there, you know, a maintenance plan, you know, for dealing with the site certainly would make sense, and, you know, their storage and snow, you know, even, their de-icers use is probably not out of the question to answer some of those questions.
It's just striking, right? Like the amount of parking in this area and how sort of like unecologically friendly the parking is here, right? I mean, we see plenty of like grocery stores around town that are doing a better job designing their parking lots so that there's a little bit of shade and a little bit of plantings. Like I just feel like I have to say that here. So
Yeah,
it's,
the other one
and
that
it's not
always,
super well used. all this
the one that
parking.
always gets me is airports, right? So there's always built in a wetland, so it's like super low, and then
Yeah.
everything can land into those. So you look at all the airports, and they're all filled in wetlands from many years ago. But
Yeah. Do you have any idea? Like, do they need this part? Like, I guess they want to maintain this parking lot. They just bought it, so. But
Barely use the one they have, I feel like.
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm a little torn as to whether, to want to see all this again, like all these different management plans versus the city's the one that's kind of running this already, and
It is, yeah. Like they're
You
privy to
know,
a lot of information we don't
yeah.
have, and
just kind of letting them review all of these things.
Yeah,
don't
I will
know,
say
I'm torn
that
about that.
I think Public Works is really the department that wants to have the final say on the final plan and what's gonna come as, in terms of maintenance. But Public Works doesn't necessarily, you know, think about the wetland impacts. They might care about filtration and maybe putting in some sort of catch basin filters in the parking lot or asking something along those lines, but, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this commission has a bit more purview that they could take advantage of with this situation.
I mean,
Staff.
in light of that, I think I kind of feel like I'd like to err on the side of caution, and if this really is our best opportunity to, you know, make an impact, then better to see everything that we're kind of missing, just to really see if there's anything further that we can add. That's my feeling, and do a postponement, but I can't make a motion anyway, so someone else can make a motion and we can vote on that.
I'll just make the motion and we can talk
Okay.
about it more. Get a second to postpone till the March meeting to get more information.
Do we have a second
I would second that motion.
discussion?
I don't have any challenges with postponing it either,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of information, more and more information getting unraveled after we said that, so I'm fine to
Okay.
support
Okay.
moving it out.
Are we ready for a vote then? All right, all in favor of postponement? Okay. We'll see you next month.
all right, sounds
A
good.
whole lot of plans.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. I think it's
Okay.
it's all in line with. So can you provide that letter? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you for
is it-
staying
It's on
late,
our portal.
by
I
the
guess?
way.
It's up on our portal. I guess I should have gone back to the portal and checked. I guess is that.
So I emailed you the staff memo, which had the suggested conditions,
okay?
but
I'll have to go back and look for that.
yeah, but we'll post a
But
letter of decision.
Honestly, think I might have missed that.
No,
That's
no
okay.
worries.
This was
Okay.
a good discussion anyways, so.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah,
We'll
Appreciate
send you
it.
another email.
appreciate it. Yeah,
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so I know it's past 6 and we have to vote to keep going. I'm just looking to see what's left. So all we have left is other business, which was master plan feedback and, Article 10.
Article
I thought, because in light of that we are really down a lot of members, at least for Article 10, maybe we postpone that to next month. And then I think if anyone had any master plan feedback to give, that they had now to give to Jess, would be helpful. I don't know, either
Yeah.
written or to send an email or what.
Yeah, Jess said she couldn't make tonight because of childcare issues, but if anyone had any thoughts, she's meeting with her master plan committee next week. So I can compile any ideas we have and send it her way, and she can bring them up if we came up with anything.
Or email.
Or email,
If-
yeah.
if
Or if you want
about
to email
things
Jess
later, or email
separately.
Jess.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any of that immediate?
We could have a conversation about it
You've
now.
got something.
Well, I had questions more than anything, and
Oh.
just in here, but I did, I mean, I just went online and did the survey that they have. I don't know if anybody else did that, but, and I don't know how else you can give input, because it's not down to the weeds yet. At least the information they had online didn't seem to be.
No, and I think they plan to release a draft later this spring for feedback, is my understanding. But it sounds like Jess is the main kind of, at least for us, we got lucky that she's on the commission and can kind of direct our comments. But if anyone's interested, the Sustainability Committee is meeting with the master plan contractor at the end of this month, along with the planning board chair, to give feedback on sustainability issues into the master plan. So maybe people could attend that, or we could maybe request that they come to a conservation commission meeting, or that might be too much because we have so much going on now with other business. But
Do you know when they meet? That seems like that would be kind of,
when the sustainability committee meets,
yeah.
it'll be the fourth Thursday of the month. I think it's February 26th. Yeah, 26th. So, and that's kind of like a work session. It's mostly sustainability topics, but a lot of times that group brings up, Jess is in that group too. Jess is in a lot of groups. What we bring up, like climate change issues and land use issues and conservation topics. So it might apply if anyone wants to drop in that night, or you can do it over Zoom and chat if that's easier. But yeah, the only things I was thinking about for the master plan, and I'm not really involved in it, was just to, provide feedback on like the climate action plan and how important it is that we maintain our conservation lands and maintain Article 10 restrictions and things like that. I don't really know how influential the master plan is for this kind of stuff, but I think highlighting all the work we've already done and like the goals of the Conservation Commission is probably pretty important, because not a lot of people know about us, it would seem. So
Well,
maybe an opportunity to highlight what we do.
Yeah.
And I think,
Jess would do that.
and I think the regulations can be based on that. It can be referenced to, or can reference the master plan. So if you come up with anything, but it just, to me, I maybe should look at the last master plan, because they do have a vision statement and priorities on there, and it talks about sustainability, but it just mentions it. It doesn't really give kind of that environmental side of it. It's more resilience and sustainability. So it's sort of like, okay, where would that be represented? And it, the climate change, yes, but still that's really talking about resilience. And so I would be happy to attend that if there's a reason to attend that and if
Yeah,
anybody
and
else-
maybe it's worth waiting until the draft comes out. Maybe that's easier. Or just sending just a kind of list of bullet points.
Yeah.
But I think something, I can't remember if this was in the last master plan or if it was just a CIP project that I think Ted pushed, but
That was a CIP thing.
for the funding for,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe we asked Jess to kind of put a good word in for some statement about, ensuring conservation lands and the upkeep of them and preserving more land through financial means. So kind of making a statement in the master plan saying that we need to keep putting money towards conservation pieces.
Yeah, and it's so hard because there's just such a need for housing, and so that there's like this battle between the two things that are definitely in the master plan. But the density and things like that, which is great, but there's, you know, not really consideration of the more and more impervious surfaces within the whole watershed and things like that, but never really have a chance. But
Hopefully they will this time.
what?
Hopefully they will this time.
I know. It's hard. It shouldn't be conflicting, but it is a little.
It would be nice to see like some acknowledgement of the buffer rules too, like called out really explicitly in the master plan too, like that this is something that the city has really done that's really good and has all these different benefits, including
Yeah.
sort of climate resilience as well as stormwater. I don't know, just like it's hard enough, right, to kind of maintain some of these
I know.
regulations and enforce them.
It's called out in another public area that
Yeah.
would be more knowledge for people too.
Know why?
Okay.
You can take the survey though, that would be nice. I
Yeah,
can't
I'm
go to
just
the
looking at
sustainability-
it too.
Sustainability meeting is like during some school vacation week. But
Yeah.
It is, yeah. On that note, meeting adjourned?
Sure.
Yep.
Sounds
Done with
good.
Oh, good.